Hi everyone, I'm Christy Forsyth with Clarity by Christy. I am a soul therapist and an intuitive that connects with the angelic energy. This is your weekly reading where we tune into what the angels want you to know in order to make the most out of the upcoming week that we have ahead and what we can expect out of this energy. A lot of the people that tune into the messages that I share are sensitive to energy, impacted by the energy, feeling that collective energy, the energy that's impacting each and every one of us. And that's really what this reading is all about, is covering all of those things. So we're going to be tuning in with that and talking about all of those messages. I was sharing last week how I felt very strongly that we are going to be receiving some pretty significant downloads of energy during the summer solstice. And I definitely know that we got some upgrades in that energy. Definitely feeling more light, but that actually felt really nice for me anyway, in terms of how I receive the energy versus how sometimes when we're receiving a lot of light, a lot of energy, a lot of downloads, sometimes that feels really overwhelming to the system. But I feel like we got a little bit of a break with that in terms of the way that we received the energy last week with the solstice. So I was really grateful for that. I don't know about you guys. I'm curious how you guys have been feeling. And it felt like part of that was to just kind of let that be delivered with ease, with peace, because we are here now in Cancer season, which can tend to be a more emotional time. So we didn't really need more added on top of all of the intensity that we were already feeling. And so I think that we got a little bit of a break there, specifically around that major download that we got on solstice. So we have all of that going on, but there has been a lot. We've had a lot of solar flares. I don't know if you guys keep up on these things. I definitely do, just because I noticed that that has a pretty significant impact on my energy field. It is basically allowing our energy fields to absorb more light, and so that can feel intense, that can feel overwhelming, and you might find yourself feeling overwhelmed. You might find yourself feeling anxious, depressed, off, tired, all the things, right? We've been getting a lot of energy that is flowing in our direction. And so I think that that's important for us to just kind of tune in and be aware. I think it's a really great question for us to ask ourselves these days. Is this just energy, right? So if you catch yourself feeling really anxious or overwhelmed out of the blue, or just having these like physical symptoms out of the blue, certainly, of course, if you feel called to get that medically checked out, get it medically checked out, right? Always listen to yourself. But at the same time, some of this might be related to these ascension symptoms that we're experiencing based on all of this planetary energy that we have going on. So a lot going on. That being said, what's going on with this week's energy? This is such a spiritual energy that we have going on. I was going to say a spiritual week, but I feel like this is a theme that's going to be expanding over the next several weeks or so. So paying attention to our spirit, right? I think when I was connecting with this energy, the vision that I had was the way that when we feel hungry, we will go and we will get something to eat, right? We're really good about feeding the physical body, but how are we doing at feeding the spirit, right? When your soul is calling for something, this is a great question to ask ourselves. How am I doing at feeding my spirit? How am I doing at tuning into my spirit, at listening to my spirit, at honoring my spirit and honoring those messages that are coming through? I think so often we have this tendency to push that aside. Maybe it's hard to make time for it, or quite frankly, maybe our spirit is whispering truths to us that are very challenging to connect with, very challenging to hear, very challenging to admit to ourselves. And so sometimes we have this tendency to push that aside, and that can get lost in the shuffle. But the thing is, it doesn't really get lost in the shuffle, because if we truly want to be happy, if we truly want to fall in love with our lives, if we truly want to find peace, which when I connect with people, these are things that I hear all the time that they're wanting. I know it's certainly things that I want in my life. So if we truly want that, we cannot accomplish that by simply honoring the body, honoring the mind, right? They say mind, body, spirit for a reason. We have to honor the spirit. We have to honor the spiritual self. So I think that this is such an important time for us to notice what our soul is trying to tell us. Notice where we need to honor the spiritual self a little bit more. How am I feeling called to be more spiritual in my daily life? And that might require us to make some adjustments, right? It might require, 15 minutes less of TV time and 15 minutes more sitting outside connecting with the outdoors. However you connect spiritually, there's so many different ways that we can connect, but the point is to ask yourself, what am I needing there with that? Or how can I honor my soul better so that I can start to feel more connected? So I can start to feel like I'm connected to that so that I can honor those messages. Or where have I been ignoring my soul? And I know exactly what it is that I need to be doing, but I'm not doing it. And can we start to take actions in that direction? And if you're like, Christy, I don't know what you're talking about, right? I have no idea. Notice where you're feeling emotional, right? Like I said earlier, this energy is very emotional. So notice where your emotions are being stirred up. This can be where you're feeling excited, right? Where are you feeling excited about things? Notice where you're feeling peaceful. But also notice where those emotions are getting triggered, because oftentimes those emotions are triggered, number one, because we need to do some healing, but number two, because there's something within our spirit that our spirit wants us to understand that maybe we've been ignoring or we're not hearing, or that we need to start honoring more of. So notice where you're feeling more emotional. I think that that's going to tell you a lot about what you're needing right now and how we can start to do that. The other part that I'm feeling with this energy is that we received this download, right? And I didn't really talk about what I feel like is happening there with that. I feel like that energy is flowing within our spirit, flowing within our bodies, flowing within our whole system right now. And what's happening, and this is going to be a somewhat slow process is what I'm shown, but it's happening and it's developing, but parts of ourselves that have been deactivated or offline for quite some time are being reactivated. So these are things that probably, unless you really took time to listen to yourself and tune in, maybe you didn't even notice that you shifted away from, or even parts of ourselves that we were connected with in childhood and now that we kind of just slowly over time disconnected from or moved away from, but they're still such a huge part of who we are. I tend to believe that when we are children, that we know ourselves so much better than we know ourselves as adults. And that's because we are our most authentic selves. We're our most in tune with our spirits at that time. So this energy is starting to bring parts of ourselves back to life that maybe we haven't been connected with in a couple of months, maybe a couple of years, maybe many, many, many years, right? Maybe it's helping us to feel less fear around things like we did when we were younger. Did you ever notice that when you were younger, typically we tend to feel less fear, right? Before we start to buy into all of the bullshit that we're told we're supposed to be afraid of, right? And so maybe you're noticing that suddenly you're being given this gift of feeling less fear, and it's giving you this ability to move forward on some things that your soul is calling for. Or maybe you're noticing that certain passions within you are being reignited. Certain things that you loved at one point in time in your life, you're suddenly finding yourself drawn to, or you just feel this calling to connect with certain things. Maybe you are revisiting certain dreams that you've been disconnected to for quite some time. Maybe you've been caught up in this and that, and we get really busy and we move away from that, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm thinking about this dream again. I'm revisiting this vision that I had for myself, and I'm suddenly starting to feel called to take some steps in that direction. So those are just some examples. It might be even just like this part of ourselves that used to be better at having a sense of humor. My God, we need to work on having a better sense of humor here in this world, because I just feel like, and I catch myself doing this too, we all take ourselves far too seriously and each other far too seriously. And I think if we can be more lighthearted, it helps us to navigate this earth and to have a better time. And when we're having a better time, we are raising our vibration. And when we're raising our vibration, we're calling in better experiences into our life. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's reconnecting with our sense of humor that we've stepped away from, where we've been taking ourselves far too seriously. Or, maybe you had a loss and you haven't really been yourself in quite some time, and now all of a sudden you're noticing, wait a minute, that part of me still exists, is still here, and she's still here, he's still here. So we're doing that. So we want to allow this process to unfold, and I think that is also leading us into honoring our spiritual selves, asking ourselves, how am I honoring my spiritual path? How can I do better honoring our spiritual path? How can I, part of spirituality is living a life that feels purposeful, that feels like we're doing something that contributes in some way or has some meaning, some purpose to it. So maybe that's part of what our souls are calling for too, is how can I do something that makes me feel connected to a purpose, to my purpose again? And people ask me a lot, what's my purpose? Because it's hard for me to connect with that. And I don't know that purpose is so black and white all the time. Sometimes it's crystal clear, right? There are things for me that have been present within me always that I recognize is a big part of my purpose. Right? Delivering these messages is a big part of my purpose, but is that my only purpose? Absolutely not. I have a purpose as a mom. I have a purpose as a friend, as a family member. I have a purpose in just exploring and experiencing this world here. There's so many different ways that we have purpose. And so what feels purposeful to you? Asking yourself that question. It can be as simple as helping somebody to, find something at the grocery store that they can't find, maybe help a stranger or whatever that is. You'll find if you start to ask God to show you what your purpose is, and then you look for those moments where you can be purposeful, you will find them. And that's really powerful. So I feel like that's going to be really important for us to be exploring this week, this month, always. How can I be more purposeful in my life? How can I make the most of this time? Because we didn't come here to simply exist from ego and to sleepwalk our way through lives. I promise you we didn't. And so it's so important that we're exploring more. So many people come to me, and this was what sparked my own spiritual awakening, was that question of like, there has to be so much more to life than this. There has to be. I know it. I feel it, right? And I think that we're going to be exploring that quite a bit in upcoming weeks. Let's take a look at the cards that I pulled. So I pulled the Page of Swords. And for me this week, this is about opening that spiritual channel, if you haven't already. Being open to new perspectives, to new ideas. I'm hearing the word curiosity. Can we be curious about the way the world works? Can we not box ourselves in with the beliefs that we've always had? And can we be expansive with our thinking? Can we be curious about understanding new ideas, new perspective, new things, things happening maybe in a way that's different than we expected? Can we be open to that? But most importantly, can we be open to allowing ourselves to be led by our higher power, by our higher self, by our spirit? can we allow that to lead us? And that is always going to carry us in the right direction. A lot of swords, by the way, here in this spread. So we want to be mindful about our thoughts, our thinking, and not spending too much time in our head. I'm going to talk about that as we get further on into these cards. But the first card, or the next card that we have here, is the Judgment card. And this feels really important this week. The Judgment is the card just before the World card. The Judgment card is a significant decision that we choose, a significant judgment. What is the direction that I want to go? Because what comes after that is an ending, a new beginning, the closing out of a cycle. So what is it that I choose? What is the direction that I want to go in? And I feel like the message here is to tune into our souls, to let that guide us. So you might find yourself facing a significant decision this week. The Judgment might also be, am I going to choose to honor my soul? Or am I going to continue to do things the way that I've always done them? Am I going to continue to live in fear? Am I going to continue to repeat this cycle, this habit, this way of doing things that on some level I understand doesn't work for me? But this is important. And this is also about, you see the big angel here in the top of the card, right? This is about letting yourself be led, letting yourself be helped. You don't have to make this decision by yourself. You never do. And if you open that up, if you say, you know what, I don't know what to do in this situation. I don't know what direction I want to go, and I don't know what path to take. If you invite that in, the answers will come. It might not come immediately right then and there in that moment, but you will get a sense of where you need to go and what it is that you need to do. So if you take that time and that space to allow the answers to come through, they will. They might come through when you're working out at the gym. I get so many messages when I'm working out. Or when you're driving in your car, or when you're taking a shower. These are just some of the places that so many messages come through, because I'm stubborn, right? And sometimes my brain is just so busy that my guides are like, let me just deliver this message when she is open, when she's not blocking it with all of this other bullshit. And so sometimes that stuff will come through then. The next card is the Ten of Wands. This feels like, this is an energy of ending too, right? But the Ten of Wands sometimes for me is about getting tired of our own bullshit. Like, where have we allowed things to get to the point of burden, of overwhelmment, and where do we need to make changes? Where do we need to make shifts with that so that we can release some of these wands, release the burden, let it go? But I also get a really powerful message with this about letting the universe, letting God, letting your angels, letting your guides, letting that help you, letting them help you, letting yourself be helped, and also letting yourself be helped here on earth, right? You don't have to do all of this on your own, is the message that I'm getting. So you might make up a to-do list, and you might on your to-do list include some things that you'd like for the universe to help you with, for God to help you with, right? And starting to just open to the idea that you can have more help. I've been sharing with you guys a little bit about my struggle and my journey about opening to help. And I'm working on some other things where I'm opening to even more help. And it's wildly uncomfortable for me. But I have to say, like, there's this part of me that just feels lighter. Maybe you guys can feel how light and peaceful and calm I feel right now. And it's because I'm choosing to release some of the burden. I'm choosing to allow help, and in all forms, on earth and in spirit, okay? Four of Pentacles in reverse. Where are we being so closed within ourselves? Where are we being so closed within this earthly experience that we are forgetting to have a spiritual experience? That's so important. We didn't come here to just have a human experience. We came here to have a spiritual experience. And this is a message to be open to that, right? We need it because we have the 8 of Swords and the 9 of Swords as the last 2 cards. Get the vibe out of these cards, right? Not really cheerful. These are showing up in reverse though. This is saying, get out of your head and get into your soul. Release the worry, hand it up, surrender it, release it, let it go. Stop letting things keep you awake at night or live in your head that have no value living there, staying there, being there, right? In fact, I think a lot of the things that we're worried about are things that a week from now we won't even be worried about. And so can we release it? Can we let it go? Can we refocus our thoughts with the understanding that our thoughts create things? And so can we create from thoughts that capture the things that we want, that capture the energy of the things that we want? And can we set ourselves free, 8 of Swords, from a prison of our own making? Where are your thoughts keeping you stuck? Where are your thoughts boxing you in? Where are your opinions boxing you in? Where are your ideas boxing you in? And can you be open? Can you be curious? There's that word again. Can we have a curiosity about what if and what might happen if I open to this and what's possible? And not, I don't mean the what if in the worrying way, because we can do a lot of that. We're really good at that, right? What if this, what if that, and what if this goes wrong, and what if that goes, what if this happens? But what if it goes right? What would that look like? And what if I choose to trust this? What if I choose to lean into this? What if life gets to be amazing? What if I get to create a life that I love? And that doesn't come from being disconnected from our spirit. It just doesn't, because you were provided this spirit. You were provided this intuitive guidance system that is your direct connection to source, to God, to the divine. And it is always showing you the way, but we have to be willing to listen. And we have to be open to it. And we have to be willing to take a look at the things that scare us with the understanding that we're always being protected, we're always being guided, we're always being supported if we're brave enough to listen. So I hope that these messages resonate with you. If they do, I always appreciate a like. I always appreciate a comment down below. If you feel like there's somebody who needs to hear these messages, because I feel like these are really important this week, please share this video. Please tag a friend. However you feel called to share it, but it just helps to get these messages to the people that need to hear them. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon with another video. Take care, guys.